Hello and welcome to Blythe Business News. For this edition, I'm joined by Mark Learmonth, Chief Executive of Caledonia Mining Corporation. Caledonia listed on the AIM market in London, the New York Stock Exchange, and also the Victoria Falls Exchange, with a ticker on all three markets of CMCL. In London, the company has a market capitalisation of around £119 million sterling. Caledonia is well known for operating the Blanket gold mine in Zimbabwe and has a track record of regularly paying dividends. Mark, this morning you've just released your quarterly results with Caledonia reporting improvements across the board. Can you give us some highlights for the quarter?
Yeah, sure. And thanks for having me, Tim. So we'd announced our second quarter production some weeks ago. So the market already knows that we achieved just over 20,000 ounces of gold production in the second quarter, and that excludes about 1,500 ounces of gold, which is contained in an ore stockpile, which we're building up at the moment as we're mining more than we can mill. So very, very strong production quarter, and that was already out there. But I think what's gratifying is that the gold price in the second quarter wasn't really that much different from the gold price in the second quarter of the preceding year. So we didn't really have much of a following wind in that respect. But we managed to bring our on-mine costs down from $715 an ounce in the second quarter of 2021 to just below $700 an ounce this quarter. Which in an inflationary environment is good going. All-in sustaining costs increased very slightly. They went up about 3%, so they're just over $900 an ounce. And when it comes to gross profit for the quarter was nearly $18 million. That's about 29% higher than the comparable period. And EBITDA was again nearly $18 million. So a good, strong performance all round. We're very pleased with it.
So clearly the financials moving in the right direction, but you've also managed to produce a record amount of gold for any quarter. Now, what's helped you get that gold out of the ground?
That shows that the central shaft project is working. Currently, the central shaft itself is focused on hoisting waste material, which frees up the other shaft, the number 4 shaft, to focus exclusively on hoisting ore. And we're hoisting more ore, we're breaking more rock, and we're hoisting more ore than we can currently mill. Hence the build-up of the stockpile. So record tonnage, the grade was good, the recovery was good. All pointing in the right direction. It was really operationally a very good, strong performance.
Now, I mentioned at the start of the interview the growth trajectory that you're on. Very significant news about the acquisition of Bilboes Gold in Zimbabwe. That happened just after the end of the quarter. But what work can we now be expecting over the project of the remaining of this calendar year, should the acquisition be finalised?
Okay, so what we're working hard at now is we're working hard to clear the conditions precedent to that transaction, and there are two sort of really big commercial CPs that we need to address. The first is getting the appropriate confirmations that we can export the gold from the Bilboes project ourselves and sell it ourselves rather than selling it through Fidelity Printers and Refiners, which is owned by the Zimbabwe government. And the reason for doing that is it makes the project bankable from a debt perspective to international banks, which is clearly an enormous step forwards in terms of just changing the paradigm of Zimbabwe as an investment destination. And I'm confident we can achieve that. And that doesn't just go to making the project bankable from a debt perspective. It also, at a single stroke, addresses by far the biggest risk that equity investors in our company have always identified, which is the perception on their part that we're beholden to the Zimbabwean authorities to get paid. I mean, we never had difficulty getting paid. We've been operating in the country since 2016. Since 2006, it's fine. So we're working very hard to clear that CP. A lot of engagement with the Zimbabwean authorities. And more engagement to come. So that's the first aspect. And the second aspect is to get more more comfort on the availability of the electricity and the ability of that electricity to be delivered to the project through the grid. And again, the landscape insofar as it relates to electricity in Zimbabwe has changed dramatically in the last few months. And what's happened is that the government-owned grid company, ZESA, is now stepping back from trying to dominate the market in terms of trying to buy power or generate power and distribute it through its creaky grid to end users like ourselves. It's stepping back and allowing large-scale users such as Caledonia to engage with power producers, but either in Zimbabwe or outside Zimbabwe, and then use the grid to transport that power to the project. That is a real step forwards because there is power available in the region for dollar-paying, credit-worthy customers such as ours. And so that is a real sort of liberalisation, which frankly is a very welcome development. So again, we're confident we can get that. Now, the wheels in Zimbabwe do move quite slowly, so maybe we don't get those CPs cleared until towards the end of the year. So maybe the transaction doesn't complete towards the end of the year. But in the meantime, we're already starting work on what's called this tribute arrangement, whereby Caledonia, even before we completed the transaction, Caledonia is taking responsibility to kickstart and rejuvenate a fairly modest oxide project at the Bilboes project. So Bilboes has been mining oxides for many years and has now run out of easily accessible oxides. And so what we're doing is we're investing about $5 million to open up oxide material down to a depth of about 40 meters. And then that should then create a sort of a 36 months revenue stream going forwards, which will be quite lucrative given the relatively modest scale of the investment. So already we're beginning to move towards trying to turn this asset to account in terms of cash generation as quickly as we can. So that news should start to flow, I'd have thought, by the end of the year, and you begin to see the benefits of that early next year.
I feel a bit cheeky asking this question now, but so you're moving towards an early stage revenue project at Bilboes. You're hoping that you'll be able to sell the gold directly out of Zimbabwe. Then you've got the liberalisation of the power supply, which will be beneficial for Caledonia. So cheekily, what other news can viewers expect from Caledonia during the rest of the year?
Yeah, and then don't forget. So whilst the Bilboes transaction has kind of overtaken Marley Green in the ranking of priorities, internal strategic priorities, we're completing the work that we started earlier on in the year to upgrade the existing resource base at Marley Green. So we bought Marley Green, which is in the Zimbabwe Midlands. We bought that in November last year for $4 million, and it already has an inferred resource base of just under 1 million ounces. At about 1.9 grams a ton, and we've finished the reevaluation of the historic drill results. That reevaluation is now with the consultant geologists, and so we're optimistic that we should be able to publish a resource upgrade on that property. Hopefully by the end of the northern hemisphere summer. So hopefully by the end of August, we'd hope to be able to announce a sort of a significant upgrade. Not necessarily an increase in the resource base at this stage, but upgrading it from inferred to M&I, and then thereafter we will continue on a sort of on a more low-key basis to do further exploration with a view to potentially adding more ounces to that, so that once we've finished with the Bilboes transaction, the Bilboes project, we can then move on seamlessly to a second growth project in several years' time. So it's really trying to build a pipeline for to lock in future growth.
Mark, thank you for joining us today. Come back and keep us informed. That was Mark Learmonth, Chief Executive of Caledonia Mining, updating on some superb financial results, record gold production, and the steps which the company is taking to become a multi-site producer of gold in Zimbabwe, but currently still underpinned by the Blanket Gold Mine, but with exciting things to come. That's it from Blythe Ray Business News for this edition. Thanks for watching.